We, the people of Detroit, is dedicated to community coalition building and to the provision of resources that inform, train, and mobilize the citizens of Detroit and beyond to improve their quality of life. As a community-based grassroots organization, we, the people of Detroit, aim to inform, educate, and empower Detroit residents on imperative issues surrounding civil rights, land, water, education, and the democratic process. For more information, call 844-42-WATER, 844-42-WATER, or email wethepeopleofdetroit.com.
Wake up, Detroit. I'm Joanne Watson, and this is your wake-up call.
When a brown girl child is born, the earth shifts. The sun is at half-mast. The moon waits for her first cry. The ancestors set the table. The flowers turn red as blood. This is your land, continent daughter, with tree trunk legs and branches for arms. This is your soil, black and fertile as your eyes facing an apartheid Jim Crow current past memory. Some of us begin the removal of shackles at birth. We grow into the armor of struggle quickly. We brew courage in our tea, blend bravery into our Sunday dinners. Joanne Watson, you understand nation building is not a part-time job. This dedicated life is sometimes lonely, a vulnerable choice, but it is the only way you know how to operate. You are wired for the movement in your black women bones, even when tired, still fighting, still organizing, still singing morning spirituals. You were born to lead, even in your own family, the eldest of 10 children born to Jefferson and Lestine. You made Damon, Nefertari, Stephen, Maya. Her children always knew she was larger than life. When you are a woman in the movement, you take the children with you on the journey. You bring the babies with you to your college classes. When you travel to Ghana for the first time, it will be with your daughters in tow. When you are a fearless, nationalist thinking mama, mothering never stops with your own babies. 30 godchildren and mentees across the globe. The daughter of a ministering mother is already ordained for good trouble. A seer, a prophetic young student preparing for her lifelong role as servant to her own community. When your purse was snatched in a Farmer Jack parking lot many years ago with your kids' tickets to Run DMC in the purse, you made sure they still got to that concert and even hosted Melly Merrill and the Furious Five in your living room, because queens make it look easy. When you were a single mom, people would tell you what you can't do. Instead, you moved to New York City with all 4 of your C's to do your necessary work with the YWCA, because queens make it look easy. Ghana, Togo, South Africa, where is your heart, Mama Watson? Nurturing spirit, baking melt in your mouth, homemade biscuits. How many hours do you sleep, Warrior Watson, with endless work ethic and blue-collar blood racing through your veins? How do we say thank you for your work, your time, your heart? We know you will never really retire. There is a fire on the path to freedom. There is smoke, there is sacrifice, there are stories of justice, of women, of Tubman, Sojourner, of Angela, Asada, Coretta, and Merle, and Betty, and Queen Mother Moore. Some of us know we are ancient, that our marrow is laced with legacy, that we are here to bring light to our daughters. Sometimes it just takes one woman, a mother, a grandmother, a Spitfire, griot, a sister, the only woman to lead the NAACP's largest chapter. She, daughter of the movement, of Rosa, of Irma. She was a birth that gave birth to possibility for other young activists like me, a true D woman, frontline Fatima, Nigerian blood, councilwoman, leader, truth teller, Joanne Watson, social worker, president of the Anti-Klan Network, sister, inspiration, dedicated to the protection of girls and the voices of women wrapped in West African beauty, regal and resilient. Wake up, Detroit. Wake up, South Africa. Wake up, Cuba. Wake up, small business owners. Wake up, White House. Wake up, reparations. Wake up, teachers. Wake up, women. Wake up, schools. Sleeping is not an option when the Honorable Joanne Watson is in the room.
Wake up, Detroit. This is your wake-up call. I'm Joanne Watson. We want to welcome you to the program today. It's a wonderful day to rise and shine and give God the glory. We're so happy to introduce you to a wonderful, wonderful guest, a young man who is absolutely at the top of the mountain, Vaughn Arrington. If you want to know how the vote got turned out in such a magnificent way in November in this community, you're looking at the man that helped propel it, Vaughn Arrington.
Thank you.
So proud of you.
Thank you.
So
I'm proud of you too.
Well, thank you. All the naysayers, those who thought that people would go to sleep and let the election go by and not really care about it, and many those who are kind of prognosticators who kind of projected low turnout, they were wrong because you did a tremendous level of work with some young people. You're young yourself, but you worked with others, and of course, you have a passion, a real commitment and a dedication in getting the vote out, and you really poured that into some young people who went door to door to door. I understand like 150,000 households. Tell us about the victory.
Well, let me tell you first that passion has been harnessed by you. You know, watching you at the council table growing up, you know, coming out of prison and watching you at that council table and the knowledge that you held and the time that you would take to figure out what should we do. That was something that impacted me as I watched you growing up and being in the halls of Marygrove studying social work, watching you. You know, it definitely harnessed it, that fire that came out, that passion that led me to do stuff like this. But yeah, the children from throughout the high schools of Detroit public school system, we brought them on out in tow.
And you taught them, you trained them, you instructed, and the key was the level of interaction. You didn't just delegate, you were right there with the young people.
Oh yeah, and they were a mighty force to be dealt with. You know, those children, a lot of times us older folks, you know, we look at the children and we think, well, we got to get somebody in here to take care of it. The children will take care of it.
That's
Believe
right.
it or not. Yes, they will. And they did. Those children were very passionate about what was going to be decided upon on women's rights. How are we going to deal with the issues coming out of COVID, our water system, our homes? You know, they were very passionate about all these issues.
That's
who's
right.
getting into office? Who's dividing up this district stuff? And they were very serious about this, and they were passionate when they would go to those doors to talk about it. And they would say this too. They would say, I can't vote. Can you go vote for me? This is what I want to see happen. And so that was beautiful to watch with the young people, and I really appreciated the opportunity to be able to lead that effort. It was nice.
Well, I hear our other guest coming in now, and Tim's going to let him in, and we're also going to really talk about why we need to do this every single election and not leave it up to chance.
Oh, yeah.
We need to do this because what has worked should not have to be left aside. We should utilize this.
Yeah.
Replicate it every election.
I think it will be. We've gathered a real nice team, and I went into it thinking that I'm going to do it again.
Excellent.
And so I start buying all sorts of stuff to use for the next time. And you know how you buy these big banners and billboards and stuff, and the thing is over and you toss them out? No, they're all in my basement. And I said, I'm going to take this down there. Don't put the year on there. Do not print the year. And so I'm going to keep that thing.
That's
so
right.
We've got all those materials, and we're going to do it again.
That's right. That's right. Well, we need the wonderful, wonderful volume of emotion and commitment and dedication that you brought, because that's our franchise.
Yeah.
The whole route to citizenship is rooted in voting.
That's right.
And voting rights are still under attack in America.
That's right.
So, which means we have to dig down deep and make sure that everybody participates and nobody opts out.
Yeah.
And hopes that somebody can vote for them. Nobody can vote for you. Everybody has to vote for themselves. Study, research, learn the issues and the people, so that folks who are not honest about who they are, like somebody who's now taking an oath of office in Congress. Help me, somebody. Help me, Holy Ghost. Sitting and just was not honest about anything.
Yeah. Yeah, we all saw that, and
Yeah.
I think it's a big concern, and that's why the young people are involved because they see these things happening. You coming over and talking to the young people was a blessing.
I loved it.
I
I
felt so
loved
good about
it.
you being there.
I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. It was serendipity. It was magnificent to lay eyes on those young people who made such a difference. They really made history. There's a reason why the Michigan elections ended up like they did. It's
Yeah.
because people showed up at the polls.
Yeah.
And some of them were non-traditional voters, people that the pollsters didn't count on voting.
Oh yeah, quite a few. Quite a few were, and we saw them at the homes. You know, some of these homes that we went to, I could tell you the sound of disappointment and fear from these people. You know, there was a home I went to. I'll never forget this one woman. We went to her home, and she said, "I don't know if I'm gonna vote. Why should I vote? I'm not. No one's gathering around me." And we told her, "We are.
That's right.
That's why we're here.
That's right.
Can you go with us?
That's right.
Gather around us.
Come on now.
The young people are leading the mission here, and we need you to join in." And when I saw her face change and she felt invigorated, I saw that happen to her. And that happened across the city. And I know that if we continue to do this, it'll happen year after year
That's
after
right.
year.
That's exactly right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. Well, the wonderful magical formula that you utilize to get the vote out in such a magnificent way, we want to salute you,
Thank you.
commend you, and all those young people who overcame tremendous odds. And they beat back the posters who said it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Yes, it did. They said,
Yeah.
yes, we can.
Yeah,
and
they
they
did.
did that. They did that. And
They
we're so
sure
proud.
did. Yeah, I'm grateful to have done it. We had Vicky Kavari, who you
Yes,
know.
yes.
She led the entire effort, and she brought us in to be able to go out to the streets and work the magic.
Yes.
And then we had Sarah Collar, who you met.
Yes.
Simone Minus in there.
Yes.
We had a few folks that were really heavily serious about this, and we produced a video that you're in.
Wow.
You didn't get to see it yet, but you're in there and you're speaking to the young people so passionately. I love when you come over and talk. I just love when you come over, period,
Oh,
and do
bless it,
anything.
bless it.
I enjoy it. You know, it was a really good time, and it awakened a lot of folks to see that the young people can drive out the missions of the future, and that they don't have to rely on themselves. You know, if you feel as though you're alone and it's not enough power coming out of yourself, if you feel that way, these young people, they'll come in now. They'll come in.
Yeah,
You
they
just
will.
got to give them the game.
But
Just
you
tell
need a
'em.
young person like you who speaks their language, who looks almost like you're their age, you
Yeah.
know, who can relate to them, who can talk. You're not talking down to them. You're connecting with them,
Mm-hmm.
working with them, going with them. And I'd love for you to tell a bit about your own story.
Yeah, well, my story is it's a little sad one, but then it gets real happy. You know, I grew up inside of a crack house. You know, both my parents dealt drugs when I was growing up, and they ended up starting to use them too. And that led me into the streets quite a bit. I got into gangs early on when I was 12, 13. I got into gangs, and 16 years old, I just turned 16 for 2 days, and I took someone's car with a broken pellet gun. Foolish, young, you know, and just not thinking. I didn't have the ability to think too well back then. I went into prison, and I served 10 years
My Lord.
for that.
My Lord.
Yep, carjacking and armed robbery was mandated at that time for anyone. If you committed that crime, mandatory adult sentencing. And so I went off to Ionia. Funny the city name, ain't it? Ionia. Interesting name for that city. And so many brothers are locked up there that should not be.
My Lord.
The 10 years that I did, you know, I have to say that it did a lot for me in terms of my passion for our community and being able to see you the way that I did when I got out. It definitely did something for me, but I don't know that I needed to stay there for that long.
My Lord. No.
And
not at 16. No.
yeah, I
No.
don't know if that was the right thing to do. The parole board
were
would say,
juvenile.
yeah, I was juvenile.
You were juvenile.
They would
Our
say-
next guest has spent some years working to address juvenile, the whole issue of juveniles being sentenced to sentences that should not be.
Oh, I'm going to enjoy watching the next guest then.
Yeah.
I'm going to thoroughly enjoy that. I want to tell you this, though. This is a really important thing, and I'm writing a book about this.
Excellent.
There were members on the parole board back then that would say, even after a point equation, this pointing system
Yes.
would show, hey, he's educated, he has a plan, we're going to give him 2 points, 3 points, 4 points on this, and at the end of it, it would say unlikely to recur or likely to recur. All of mine would say unlikely to recur.
Yes.
They would all say this, but I would still get the 2-year continuance.
Wow.
My minimum was 2 years, but it turned into 5 different times of me being told
My Lord.
that I had to stay. And then at the end of this, I still have this parole board review at my house in the basement right now in a blue backpack. It says, we regret that we do not have jurisdiction over Arrington 264-570. He is deemed to be a menace to society and should not be allowed to disturb the community
My.
in which he will be released to.
They regret.
They regret. And so as I left,
You were 16.
I
They
was
regret.
16. Yeah. It made me worry and wonder, do I not know something about myself? I don't think that I'm going to do anything wrong, but am I? I became scared. And so when I came home, I was scared, man. I went to school. I went to Marygrove, and I would stay in that school. I would do everything that I could do that was a program there for me to do, And time went by, and I became more and more educated in the field of social work. And then I realized, man, you're not going to do anything wrong.
That's right.
That's not who you are.
That's
I think
right.
they were wrong. They were wrong about you. And here it is. It's 15 years later,
Come on, man.
I've done nothing but help my community. So I don't think some good minds were at the table for that.
Their prophetic word was not prophetic. It was poisonous. It was contaminated. It was tainted. It was racist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. But you have overcome.
Yes, I have.
You are the victor, and you are here and making your entire community proud. And we're so glad about it, Vaughn Arrington.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And this is just the start of your story. We're going to have you back many times.
Oh yeah,
Because
I want to come back.
The work you're doing
Yeah.
is making a difference, helping to transform our beloved community. And that's exactly what we need, a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vaughn Arrington. We're going to take
You're
a break.
so welcome.
And we shall return with a wonderful, wonderful attorney who's always on the right side of justice. Mark Fancher's in the house. Wake up, Detroit.
We, the people of Detroit, is dedicated to community coalition building and to the provision of resources that inform, train, and mobilize the citizens of Detroit and beyond to improve their quality of life. As a community-based grassroots organization, we, the people of Detroit, aim to inform, educate, and empower Detroit residents on imperative issues surrounding civil rights, land, water, education, and the democratic process. For more information, call 844-42-WATER, 844-42-WATER, or email wethepeopleofdetroit.com.
At the Detroit Water and Sewerage Department, we're working hard to protect pipes by cleaning public sewer lines to reduce flooding and speeding up the replacement of lead service lines. Protect your pipes with 3 easy tips. Pour grease into containers, toss wipes in the trash can, and check for running toilets, leaky pipes, and dripping faucets. For more tips, go to detroitmi.gov/protect pipes. DWSD, working hard to protect pipes for you. The Detroit Water and Sewerage Department is looking for motivated Detroiters to be a part of our team. We have opportunities for field services technicians, engineers, and customer service specialists with competitive pay and benefits. Make a real difference with the work you do every day. Join other Detroiters who are taking part protecting the pipes where we live, work, and play. Learn more and apply at detroitmi.gov/jobs. DWSD, working hard for you.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times with a global pandemic now approaching its third year. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. To see if you qualify, please visit. Call 313-388-9799 or email taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Wake up, Detroit. I'm Joanne Watson. This is your wake-up call, and we're so blessed to have a magnificent guest, Attorney Mark Fancher, who's going to give us some critical information we need to know. We need to pack the house of a courtroom on this Monday, January 23rd at 11 a.m., courtroom 218, courtroom Denise Page Hood's courtroom at 231 Lafayette and the 11 Federal Courthouse right downtown. And that is to make sure that we take a stand against water shutoffs that are damaging our community. Water shutoffs should not be. The moratorium against water shutoffs, that moratorium ended January 1st, 2023, and we want to do something about that. Mark Fancher is going to help us learn what we need to do. Welcome to Wake Up Detroit.
No, thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
So glad you're here.
Thank you.
And so glad you're one of the attorneys on the case. We want to certainly thank God for the great Alice Jennings, who is a great freedom fighter down through the years, and she has been leading the way on this, but you have been a part of that process.
Well, I have tried to follow her lead. She is legendary. Detroit has produced few who are as great as Alice Jennings.
That's right.
So we give her mad props.
That's right. That's
Yes.
right. And, of course, we need to address water shutoffs, quite frankly, and you're doing this as a leader with the Racial Justice Project of ACLU because it's racist.
It absolutely is. And, this has been going on for a very long time. And you and Maureen Taylor, Marion Kramer, Monica Lewis-Patrick, We the People of Detroit, People's Water Board, so many people have been on the case on this issue. And in the courts, Alice Jennings has led the charge. But notwithstanding all of the efforts that have been made by so many for so long, Detroit Water and Sewerage Department has persisted in this, I think, unconscionable idea that when people don't pay for water amounts that they can't pay, that you go and you turn their water off.
Well, it's draconian to turn the water. Water is a human right. Now, in another life, I'm a minister. And I am real familiar with the beginning of the book that says, in the beginning, the Spirit of the Lord hovered over the face of the water. And then the Lord said, let there be light. That's Genesis 1:1. So if man did not create water, in my view, man shouldn't even be charging for water. It's like we shouldn't be charging for the air we breathe. We cannot have people living in a civilized society without water.
And I'll tell you how biblical it is. You were with us when we filed the first lawsuit against this,
Yes, sir.
Leiter versus Detroit Water and Sewerage Department. And soon after we filed that lawsuit, the judge ordered that we get together and try and have a mediation.
Right.
On the day that we were supposed to have the mediation, not only did it rain, but it flooded Detroit.
Come on, somebody.
Flooded Detroit. I had trouble getting there, but I said, God, you're sending a message. They're talking
Look at
about
God.
water should be limited. He's showing
Look at God.
just how plentiful water is, and everybody should have it, just like we should have oxygen.
And in a city surrounded by the Great Lakes,
Absolutely.
how can it be possible that people be without water? It should not be. And one of the things I learned as a city council member, I did not realize until I was an elected official that the city, for decades, city residents have been paying retail rates, while the suburban customers have been paying wholesale rates for water, the same water. Now, how is it that the people who own the water, Detroiters, paid for this water system by a bond before we were born, but Detroiters paid for it, but are paying the highest price for the water? That's just, it's as if apartheid is alive and well here.
Oh, it really is. And one of the claims that we make in our lawsuit is, as you mentioned earlier, that it's racist. The Fair Housing Act, on which that claim is based, says that you can't discriminate with respect to the provision of services connected with housing.
Yes.
And we had experts to do an analysis, and they determined that 90%, at least 90% of the water shutoffs take place in neighborhoods that are predominantly black.
My.
And, we're talking about
That's
thousands
irrefutable.
of households.
90%.
And, it's hard to argue that this is fair or equitable.
It's not equitable, it's not righteous, and quite frankly, it's not legal.
That's correct.
It's not legal.
Absolutely. And so we need people to, as you said, come out and show
Pack the courthouse.
concern about this, because we filed this lawsuit back in 2020. And soon after we filed it, the city and others that we sued filed motions to dismiss the lawsuit. Those motions still have not been decided. And because they have not been decided, we've not even been able to move forward with discovery, which is that stage of a lawsuit where you get to collect evidence and to receive information from the other parties. We've not been able to do much of anything. We have not been able to discuss a possible resolution of this lawsuit because the city has told us they don't even want to talk to us. And so the only
The city ought to talk to you.
at least talk. I mean,
The city should talk, for heaven's sakes.
I mean, we're talking about something that's in their interest as well as the interests of the
Absolutely.
people that we're representing.
Absolutely.
And the only thing that we're asking with this motion that's going to be heard on Monday is that while we're working through all of this, that the court order the city to not resume shutoffs. 2 years.
Because the moratorium ended January 1st, 2023. The moratorium, and that moratorium had been in place for 2 years. So we cannot have the water shutoffs reignite in the city of Detroit. That would be disastrous.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're still in the middle of an epidemic, a pandemic, even
That's
though
right.
they try to pretend otherwise. And even
Now,
with
COVID is not over.
Oh, it is
and
not
other
over.
viruses are threatening households all over this nation, all over the world.
Oh, they certainly are. And so even without COVID, you have just basic needs that people have.
That's right.
Diabetics who need water in order to prepare their food.
Yes.
Mothers who need to have water to prepare formula for their babies. I mean, you just got to have water, period, for personal hygiene and
And so some
hydration.
children don't want to go to school if they don't have the proper hygiene. They'll get talked about and laughed at and mocked. And this gives them trauma.
Oh, it's horrible. I mean, we've heard stories of mothers who send their kids to school early so that they can try and take showers in the locker rooms, and
Lord have mercy.
And even mothers who, because they don't have water service, at the end of the day, have to take a small trowel or a shovel and a bucket and to empty out their toilets, and then to dump it in the sewer. The real ironic tragedy of this is that the city continues to say that the reason that they engage in shutoffs is because they have to force people to pay. Now, if you are living on a fixed income and you don't have enough money in the first place to pay the market rates that they're charging for water, if they shut off your water, how are you magically going to have enough income to pay for water? And not only are they not getting money from these customers, but then they engage contractors like Homrich and others and pay them millions of dollars to go out and shut off water.
No, should not be. And when you consider the myths that get floated around, like people are buying big screen TVs or buying things they don't need instead of buying. No, that's not true.
Oh, it's absolutely
That's not true. People are not doing frivolous things with money instead of buying water. Everybody wants water. If they're not paying their water bills, it's because they can't afford to pay their water bills, which have gone up sky high, as you know, as a former staffer of mine. I voted no on every water rate increase because it's not equitable.
Absolutely. And the thing is that so many people want to pay. They just want to be able to pay an amount that they can afford to pay. And that has been a consistent demand that everybody who's been active on this issue has made, that
That's
they
right.
want water bills.
Affordability.
Yes.
That's why we brought Roger Colton here from northeast part of this country in order to prove and document with statistics that there is a way to help people pay what they can afford to pay, and it's a win-win situation. The city will receive more money, more revenue, and everybody will have their water on.
Right. Without that, then the burden is shifted to the people who can't afford to pay.
That's right.
And everybody loses when you do it that way.
That's exactly right.
And Roger Colton developed a plan that would not only make water affordable, but would be self-sustaining.
That's right.
And this has been rejected repeatedly. They have always claimed that it violates the Michigan Constitution. The most credible lawyers, including the lawyers who work for Detroit City Council, have done in-depth legal analyses of this and found that it's not unconstitutional at all
Not at all.
to adopt the type of plan that Roger Colton came up with. But they've stuck to that and said that they won't do it. And what they have done is within the last several months, they've unveiled something called the Lifeline Program.
Yes, yes.
Which is a step in the right direction.
It is a step
because
in the right direction.
it does index income to cost of water.
But it's not enough. Everybody doesn't get through.
They don't. And not only that, it's not sustainable financially in the way that Colton's plan is.
It's a temporary plan.
It is for the
Lifeline,
moment.
we need a permanent fixture for a permanent need for water. Water is not a temporary need, so you can't have a temporary plan.
Right. And
That's why we want to pack the courthouse on Monday at
That's
11 a.m., courtroom 218, Judge Denise Page Hood, her courtroom. And we need to be there because every one of us has a connection. We're all in this together.
And the city needs to know that the community is supporting this.
That's
it's
right.
easy for them to say, well, it's those crazy radical lawyers like Mark Fancher and the ACLU who are doing this and nobody's listening to them. This is something that we're doing because the people in the community say we need this. And even if we didn't talk to the people in the community, we would know that they need it because everybody's got to have water.
Well, we're so proud of we the people of Detroit, which has ensured that plaintiffs are in place for this significant suit. And I always want to salute Monica Lewis Patrick, the CEO, Deborah Taylor, Cecily McClellan, Mama Chris Harris, and Sister Aurora. We want to really thank everybody who's been on the side of justice for ensuring that our people have access to water. It's not just an issue for some people. It's an issue for all people.
It definitely is. And we need to come together on this.
The road to ensuring that water is accessible to everybody is a fight everybody should be a part of. Nobody should sit out on this issue. Everybody should weigh in, opt in, decide that this is something worth getting into, which is why Attorney Mark Fancher's here.
I'm always honored to be here for any reason. You are certainly one of my biggest heroes, or sheroes.
I appreciate that.
And, you've been waking up Detroit for a long time, and I think they listen.
We want people to listen. Thank you, Attorney Mark Fancher. And we want to thank you and Alice Jennings and everybody who's been supporting this. And there's still time for the city to talk to you.
Oh, there's always
There's still
to
time.
talk.
I mean, the court hearing is Monday. Today is Thursday. You have time. Reach out, city. Get in touch with the great Mark Fancher, the great Alice Jennings, and have discussion because we all should be on the same side of helping our people gain access to water.
Yes, and we've told them we're glad that you're looking in the direction of water affordability.
That's right.
And if you're interested in doing it, let's put our heads together and figure out a way to make this something that satisfies everybody. I mean, that's the only reasonable way to resolve this, and it's the way it should be
That's
resolved. It shouldn't be resolved simply by DWSD administrators making decisions in an office someplace. The community should be part of that.
Absolutely.
They should embrace this as something that's the product
Whose
of
water is
everybody's
it? It's
thinking.
our water.
Exactly.
We're going to continue this conversation right after this break. This is Wake Up Detroit, and we'll be back right after this.
This is Bruce Simpson, your City of Detroit Ombudsman. I am here to address all of your complaints and concerns. If you need assistance regarding city services, please contact my office at 313-224-6000 or contact us via email at ombudsman@detroitmi.org. detroitmi.gov. This is Bruce Simpson, your City of Detroit Ombudsman.
The Detroit Water and Sewerage Department is looking for motivated Detroiters to be a part of our team. We have opportunities for field services technicians, engineers, and customer service specialists with competitive pay and benefits. Make a real difference with the work you do every day. Join other Detroiters who are taking part protecting the pipes where we live, work, and play. Learn more and apply at detroitmi.gov/jobs. DWSD, working hard for you.
It's time to do something more. Join the Detroit Police Department, either straight out of high school or make a bold career change.
Do you want to be a Detroit police officer?
Sir, yes, sir! Apply online at joindetroitblue.org.
We, the people of Detroit, is dedicated to community coalition building and to the provision of resources that inform, train, and mobilize the citizens of Detroit and beyond to improve their quality of life. As a community-based grassroots organization, we, the people of Detroit, aim to inform, educate, and empower Detroit residents on imperative issues surrounding civil rights, land, water, education, and the democratic process. For more information, call 844-42-WATER, 844-42-WATER, or email wethepeopleofdetroit.com.
I'm Joanne Watson, and we're back with Mark Fancher, attorney Mark Fancher from the ACLU. Give them your full title, Mark Fancher.
Well, I'm the staff attorney for the Racial Justice Project of the ACLU of Michigan.
ACLU of Michigan, doing great work, and I was on the board for a number of years. It seems like I've been on every board for a number of years.
Yeah. Where you see a need, you go.
But the Racial Justice Project has a great connection with this water issue, because what's happening with the water shutoffs is a racial justice issue. They have to make no mistake about it.
Oh, it truly is. And, we mentioned earlier that most of these water shutoffs are taking place in Detroit.
Yes.
And, I'm sorry, in black communities in Detroit.
Yes, sir.
And I think that there are serious racial undertones, from those who oppose water affordability,
Yes.
particularly from the suburbs and elsewhere.
Yes.
You hear the kinds of comments that they make. I mean, they say things, as you mentioned earlier, that, well, if they want water, then they should pay for it and stop buying expensive smartphones. They should, stop going and buying flat screen TVs. If they want water, they can go to the store and buy some. If they want water, they can go down to the river and get some. What do they want?
Help
Free
me, Holy
water?
Ghost.
I
Help
mean,
me,
these are
Holy
the
Ghost.
kinds of comments that you hear, and it's all based on stereotypes. The
Sure it is.
presumption that black people are lazy and want
Right.
handouts. And, as we talked about earlier, they just want a chance to pay something that they can afford to pay.
Absolutely.
And we also can't overlook the fact that many of these shutoffs were the result not of anything that that people who are water customers did or did not do, but because of errors and incompetence by DWSD.
Absolutely. Well, in my office, we discovered an elder came to our office once, and she did not come to my office first. She'd been to the mayor's office, other city councils, she'd been to the water department. And they told her that she owed $27,000, and if she didn't pay it, they were going to put a lien on her house. Older woman who lived in a frame house on the east side by herself. She said, "There's no way my bill should be $27,000." I had some super competent attorneys who worked in my office go to the water department on Randolph Street, and guess what? They discovered that the water department owed her $344. She didn't owe any $27,000 and should not have had a lien put on her house. So human error can happen with any billing system.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes it's just mean-spirited bureaucracy. One of the worst stories I heard was at it was a support group meeting out in Brightmoor, and this woman explained that she had consistently paid not just her water bill, but all of her bills. That was an important thing to her.
Yes.
To make her payments.
Yes.
And she did not receive a water bill for a number of months. And, you know, when she went to pay it, she decided, well, they're not sending me a bill. Let me make my best estimate as to what I owe,
Yes.
and I will pay them anyway. And so she continued to send them payments. They shut her water off.
My Lord.
And when she went to find out why they shut the water off, they said that her estimate was off by something less than $1.
What? Something less than $1. Outrageous.
So
Where is humanity?
I mean, this is
Where is compassion? Where is sensitivity? Where is respect?
or common sense.
Where is respect for the people who own the water system, who've been, quite frankly, overpaying? Because they've been paying recharged retail rates for water, while all the suburban customers have only been charged wholesale rates. We know the difference between retail and wholesale, and it should not be. It's apartheid. It's racism.
Oh, it absolutely is, and it doesn't have to be.
No.
And I think that we have the ability, the capacity to make some change if we step up and
That's right.
do what we're supposed to do. And, you know, we talked earlier about the Lifeline program, and the fact is that, at least according to what they say, that if people are enrolled in the program, then not only do they get rates that are lower, but they are exempt from water shutoffs.
Yes.
They have gone further to say, in response to the motion that we filed, that you actually don't even have to enroll at this point. If you just call and apply, just say that you want to be enrolled, then that will exempt you from shutoffs as well. Our objective is to stop people from being shut off.
That's right.
And so while we have some criticisms and concerns about the Lifeline program, we at the same time strongly urge everybody to go ahead and make that call.
Make that call.
I mean, because we want to protect lives.
Make that call. Make that call. Get enrolled in the Lifeline program, which will immediately put an arrearage on your bill and stop any future water shutoff from happening to endanger you and your family. You can also contact Bruce Simpson's office, the ombudsman for the city of Detroit, who has made a public commitment that his office will assist you. Give his office your family's name and address, and they will also make sure that your household is not going to be subject to a water shutoff. But this is very serious, and nobody should take this lightly.
Oh, absolutely not. And the fact is that we filed this motion, but if it were true that everybody who needs the Lifeline program had been able to apply and was exempt from water shutoffs, we wouldn't have filed a motion.
That's right.
The only thing we're trying to do is to keep people from having their water shut off before we can resolve the underlying issues in the lawsuit.
That's right.
But we have to file it because by Mayor Duggan's estimate, there are about 100,000 households in the city that are eligible for Lifeline.
My Lord.
And in the responses to our motion, they say that only 14,000 have currently been enrolled. So that leaves, another 86,000 households that are still subject to shutoffs. And unless they can be enrolled like within the next few days, there is a need for the relief that we're requesting from the court.
That's right. That's right. And there also is a need to have a long-term, a permanent fix to the payment of water. There ought to be a permanent fix because the plan that was put together by Roger Colton and adopted and really included in the legislation I sponsored in 2005. And let me say that the former President Marianne Mahaffey was the first to invite Roger Colton to Detroit to address water affordability. And back then there was so little support among other city council members that she actually had to hold meetings with Marion Kramer and Maureen Taylor and others, and your wife, and other good folks on the second floor of the City Hall, Coleman A. Young Municipal Center, because she did not have enough support. I was sent to those meetings when I was still working for Congressman John Conyers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was a part of the effort before I became a council member. So of course, once I got elected, we started having our meetings on the 13th floor, on the city council floor, and started having public hearings, and changed the background of how we were handling it, and then brought the community in, which is why the community needs to be brought into the courtroom on Monday. Because you need litigation, but litigation must also be paired with agitation. If you don't have that partnership of community activism along with litigation, it's not going to have the same effect.
Oh, it does. And you raised those discussions that took place. My wife, Lorraine Brown, who's with the Michigan Poverty Law Program,
another great attorney,
told me about one of those discussions where they were meeting in the mayor's office. And the negotiations were tense, the discussions were tense, and they were not getting anywhere. But the community had massed outside of the office doors.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, through the walls, they heard people singing, "We Shall Overcome."
Uh-huh.
And the people for the city looked at her and her colleagues and said, "You put them up to this, didn't you?" And she said, "No, we did not. That's what the people want."
Come on now.
That's what the people want. So it makes a difference.
Yes, yes.
So
we, the people, have the last word.
That's where all power resides.
Come on now.
Yes.
The significance of this time should not be lost. And we're in the aftermath of the federal holiday introduced by Congressman John Conyers, honoring Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whom we loved and respected. A magnificent man, gone too soon, 39.
He definitely, we won't see the likes of him again. And he doesn't get credit really for his radical vision.
No.
He is portrayed as this, soft-spoken, meek figure who just wanted people to be nice to each other. But he called for things like what we're talking about now.
That's right. He called for reparations, too.
He did.
He said America gave a blank check.
He did. And the Poor People's Campaign that he was organizing before his death was intended not to be a picnic on the mall in Washington.
That's right.
But he was mobilizing thousands of poor people of all races, all ethnicities, to converge on Washington, D.C.
My Lord.
And to take over the government.
My Lord.
He wanted them to go into congressional offices and occupy those offices and not leave until Congress passed what he called an Economic Bill of Rights, which would ensure all basic needs for everyone.
Like water.
Like water.
That's right.
And the sick were parked in the hallways and corridors of the District of Columbia hospitals, and they were not leaving until they got treatment.
My.
He had made arrangements with anti-war activists to go across the river and occupy the Pentagon so that they could bring the war to an end. And so when people wonder about why this man was killed, there's no mystery to me.
My Lord.
And I think it really takes us to the whole question of, we're talking about water and the need to reimagine it outside of a capitalist context.
That's right.
We think water has been made in most cities a commodity, something that somebody controls and somebody sells to people.
That's right.
If they could commodify air, oxygen, they probably would.
Sure.
And thank God that they can't. But we need to think of water in the same way that we think about other basic needs of people.
That's right.
If people put their garbage out on the curb,
my Lord.
Assuming garbage pickup is functioning, they don't make an inquiry as to whether they've paid for garbage collection.
That's right.
They just pick up the garbage.
That's right.
If somebody's house is on fire, they don't check to see if their taxes are delinquent or if they're not paying. The fire is put out.
That's right.
If somebody has a child and they need to enroll them in school, they take them to a public school. They're enrolled.
Right. That's right.
There are just certain things that as a society we recognize that people have to have. And we can't commodify those things. We can't treat them as goods and services that are to be sold.
That's right.
And bought. These are things that a decent society provides for every member of that society, regardless of who they are or what their circumstances.
You are not a
be.
civilized society if you don't provide access to water for your citizens.
International treaties and covenants that deal with human rights say that quite clearly. And in countries that are far less technologically developed and advanced than ours, they make water a priority.
That's exactly right. And you should not have people, whole neighborhoods suffering for lack of water. because it also brings on other issues, like hepatitis. Brings on other issues like all the viruses that have been impacting the pandemic have not gone away, and these only stand to increase when people don't have water, don't have hygiene.
Yeah, intestinal diseases, all kinds of things that flow from it. And, you know, the willful blindness of public officials to these kinds of things is one of the things that has disturbed me most. Before we filed this lawsuit, we had an expectation that if we went to the Department of Health and Human Services and presented them with studies that have been done about the correlation between the lack of water and waterborne diseases
Yes.
and other kinds of things, that they would take it upon themselves to declare a public health emergency.
Yes.
And they would direct that water shutoffs be discontinued.
And they should have done that. The governor has a right to do it right now. This governor who got elected by the same people whose water is too often shut off.
Well, when the Department of Health and Human Services said that they weren't going to do it, we thought, well, if they are not able to use common sense and to be honest, then the governor should be. And we sent the same petition to the governor.
Yes.
And it said, listen, this is what DHHS did.
Right.
You know, why don't you use your authority and do it? The response we got back was that we don't see any correlation between water shutoffs and disease. And there was a refusal to do it. Now, that's disturbing enough, except that this happened in early 2020.
Yes.
And, you know, about 2 weeks after we got that response, the COVID-19 threat became really apparent and clear.
Yes.
And it was in a very short period after that, the governor came down and met with Mayor Duggan and declared this a public health emergency, saying that water was necessary in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Now, I've been criticized for saying this, but I connect the dots. And my conclusion was that as long as the disease threat, at least the one that was known at the time that we
Yes.
made our first request,
Yes.
which was limited to intestinal diseases and that kind of thing, as long as that was confined to the people of Detroit,
Uh-huh.
then somehow there was no emergency, there was no need.
Right.
But once COVID-19 hit and it became clear that that Detroit could be ground zero for Michigan's part of the pandemic, and it
Right.
would spread to the suburbs and more influential people,
Yes, yes.
then now all of a sudden we've got an emergency.
Yes.
And I was personally offended by that. You know, I just thought
And you had a
that-
right to be.
I
We all
thought-
do.
Yeah, that was you know, unpardonable. You know, an emergency is an emergency, whether it's affecting black people in Detroit or whether it's affecting the entire Southeast Michigan region.
That's exactly
or
right.
the entire state.
And when you look at Flint, it was a man-made emergency. The crisis in Flint occurred directly because of evil politicians who dictated that the Flint customers be disconnected from the Detroit water system. And that, oh yeah, let them get their water from the Flint River. The Flint River was so contaminated that General Motors stopped using the Flint River for building their cars. So if it's too rough for GM cars, why is the Flint River good enough for the people, for the elders, and for the children and the families in Flint? It was wrong. There was a political decision to make the Detroit water system look less profitable. So that's why the Flint customers were disconnected from the Detroit water.
And
It was all politics. And that there was a crisis that never had to be. And somebody ought to go to jail. Of course, I believe somebody's going to go to hell over it.
oh, they're definitely going to
I mean,
go there for that.
you don't poison families without a cause who have brown water coming out of their faucet and people telling them, oh, it's okay. No, it wasn't okay. And it was done deliberately because they didn't care about Flint. They don't care about Detroit. Too many black folks, too many people of color. So they wanted to steal Detroit's water system and put it in take it away from the city, which is a violation of the charter, because the charter says citizens have to vote on any changes with the utility. The water is a utility, and it's the most profitable utility that this city has. As a matter of fact, the water department, which Judge Fikens said was worth $60 billion, You don't have something worth $60 billion, which will allow you to be bankrupt. The city was never bankrupt. That's another challenge, but that'll have to be another show. I'll have to be another show.
Or two.
Or three. We are so grateful that you've been able to share your wonderful leadership on this issue, on the litigation that's happening to really protect Detroit citizens from any more water shutoffs, because the water shutoff moratorium has ended January 1st. That's why we need to pack the courtroom on this Monday, the 23rd, at 11 a.m., courtroom 218, Judge Denise Page Hood's, Federal Judge Denise Page Hood's courtroom, 231 West Lafayette in downtown Detroit. We need to be there and sit in the gallery. We need to pack the court, because you need not just litigation, you need some agitation.
I can't say I can't support that anymore, and then to say that lawyers will not save the people will save themselves. And I think it's just extremely important that the city, the court, everybody knows that the people are prepared to do what's necessary here.
The people united will never be defeated.
Amen.
Wake up, Detroit.